Monday, January 27th, and we are live on PuckTime on WagerTalk TV. Myself, Andrew McGinnis, Carmine Bianco, and Brian Leonard here to break down a handful of games, best bets, totals, sides, props, all kinds of good stuff. Good to see these two gentlemen. Carm, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Andrew, I'm surprisingly good. I was just talking to Brian pre-show about the fact that once the Bills game was over yesterday, I didn't feel bad at all. I think I've become numb or immune or whatever it is to like teams you cheer for not winning games. Would have been great if they won, so Dan and I could go to battle on the Eagles and the Bills in the Super Bowl. But the Eagles are there. KC deserves to be there, so it's going to be. I think it's still going to be a great Super Bowl. I'm looking forward to it, guys. There was a ton of comments on Friday's show after the show got posted with your predictions on the 6 and 60 and on the two winners of the football games and total points. I'm going to go through all of those today, and on tomorrow's show, I'll announce who the winners of some PuckTime swag are. But the 6 and 60 went 5-1. Only Colorado losing to the Boston Bruins in the early matinee. Andrew was the loser on that card. We know KC and Philly both made it, and a ton of points scored across the two games. So we'll see if we can figure that one out. But we're talking the LA Kings, Detroit Red Wings, the Devils, and Flyers. Your prop playlist. We're going to end it off with McDavid finally back on the ice after his suspension against the Seattle Kraken. Some best bets, and as an added bonus, we have Brian Leonard on today's show because I wasn't sure I'd make it back from my appointment in time with the doc. Brian, how you doing, buddy? And I want to go to you right away because people are waiting for some NHL talk on this one. I gave you kudos on Friday's show about the Carlson prediction. I'm not sure what kind of voodoo you have, but you put him on the injury reserve list, my friend. How was your weekend before we get going?
Yeah, everything was good. I don't like to force a lot of plays I don't have a big edge on, so I didn't have anything in the football, although I did have a free play up on a prop in that one. But enjoyed the weekend. Got a big winner in college basketball yesterday. So yeah, I'm happy and I'm ready to tackle it here in the NHL for Monday.
All right, tackle it. We will. There will be no throwing of bodies and smashing tables today. That is done. Let's go. LA Kings, Detroit Red Wings. Bri, I'm surprised at this line. I get it. You know, the Kings are a very good team, but they're 3-7, their last 10 away, and they're minus 145 in Detroit tonight. The Wings plus 125. The Wings are 7-2 at home, their last 9 games since the coaching change. One of those losses came in the very first game, so you wouldn't have expected that coach's bounce right away. They lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then the second loss, I'm just going to hang that one on Ville Husso, because he was horrible in net against the San Jose Sharks. Otherwise, plus 125, it seems way too juicy for me to not to take the Wings tonight. So that's where I'm going. Where are you going on this one?
Yeah, it's interesting. Los Angeles was the last year they got off to such a great start on the road, and they're terrific on the road all season, and now they're struggling. 3-7 run on the road. This is also the second game of a 5-game road trip for the Kings. They beat the Red Wings 4-1 at home in mid-November, and the only meeting so far this season. And obviously, this will be the last one unless they get to the championship, obviously. But it's been a good scoring, or not been a good scoring month for the Kings. That's been their problem. They scored 20 goals in their last 10 games. You're not going to, as good as their defense is, you're not going to win many games when you're only scoring 20 goals in 10 games. They scored 2 goals or less in 5 of the last 6 games on the road, so they just have not put it together. Red Wings, as you mentioned, 10-4 run, putting themselves back into the playoff picture. They head out on a 4-game road trip after this contest. Wings have scored just 10 goals in the past 5 games themselves, so they're having problems scoring. I would find no problem with somebody being on Detroit here, but I prefer the under. Neither team is scoring well right now. It's an important game. Los Angeles has got to start turning it around on the road. Detroit's fighting for a playoff spot here, so I'm going to take a look at the under, but maybe playing the LA Kings under team total may be the better deal. We'll see how that goes, but I can see different ways to look around this.
Yeah, Brian, I like that. And before I go to Andrew for his thoughts on this game and then the Devils Flyers game, that team total, and Andrew's very good at these, that team total for the Kings might be a play that could offer some value or something that you just want to jump on. 7-3, the Kings have played to the under in their last 10 road games. 7 times the game has stayed under the total. So that's from that point of view, it's been a winning play on Kings unders on the road. So we'll see how that ties into the team total, but we'll throw it to Andrew for his thoughts.
Yeah, guys, I mean, there's no need for my thoughts. You guys already knew my play. So here we are. You guys knew what play I was going to be on, and that's the play it's going to be. So I guess what I'll just say is this. From a larger scale standpoint, a lot of people know I've been on these team totals. And the thing is a lot of times I'll look, if it's a 6.5 or a 6, and you see that certain price range for a certain style of team, sure, I'll look towards the over 3.5 for the favorite. But of course, you have the road favorite here being the Kings. And both Brian and Carm talk about the struggles scoring-wise for both these teams. And that's the thing here. I mean, yeah, sure, the home dog is kind of intriguing. But at the same time, you're mostly just intrigued by it because of this, struggles from the road team right now. But when I look at what Detroit's done recently, and especially the games they have scored on, a lot of those have been against non-playoff teams. And I think for LA, they're very true to their core and kind of strength is still their defense. I can't remember what the exact number was here. In January, they are the number 2 team in expected goals against. So their defense has been pretty good. Their offense just hasn't been anywhere to be found. This is how they remain in games. This is how they win games. And on Friday, a pick that I gave on PuckTime, and it ended up being my only client play, we had Philadelphia's team total under 2.5. They were going up against the Islanders, and I said to myself, if I want to back the Islanders, but I don't want to lay the 140 or 150, that they at their true core and their true identity, they are an under team. And typically when some of these teams win, they make their other team that they're facing go under their team total. So I'm more confident in Detroit going under 2.5 than I am for Los Angeles going over 3.5 in this one. You are getting minus 115. So obviously it's because it's kind of baked into the fact that we are seeing the 5.5 total. So it makes sense that the team that you're kind of betting against under 2.5 goals, minus 115 there. So shop around, try and get the best number you possibly can. But I think it's still a pretty good bet here, guys. Should be an interesting one because, as you guys mentioned, LA has been struggling to score. Their offense simply just hasn't been there. And Detroit has been showing some good bright spots recently. And hopefully that's a good sign that Brian's cat likes the play and isn't arguing with me as far as the play that we're talking about here. Just starting things off here, guys, as far as the show is concerned, that's 7 days of all sport plays, $11 a day. That expires Tuesday at midnight. So anybody interested in joining Brian, Carmine, or myself, 7 days, $11 a day, $77 for a week. That expires Tuesday at midnight. So a lot of our new deals begin on Tuesdays, of course, with $5 Tuesday being there. So if you guys want to jump in, it's a good time right now. Obviously, people are disappointed. College football is no longer. NFL is about to be no longer, but there still are a ton of sports. Both these guys are doing a bunch of different sports. Carm's cleaning it up in soccer right now. Brian, I feel like you're on a red hot streak whenever I see you these days. So, guys, 7 days, any sport, $77, only good until Tuesday. And then we have some really good deals as well for the next month or two that are coming out tomorrow. But keeping the show on the tracks, unless, Carm, you had something else you wanted to mention. We good? You're looking at me kind of,
we're good.
That look right now. You're giving me that look.
I look dazed and confused. Are you saying I look dazed and confused? I'm drinking out of the Wager Talk mug today, or coffee cup, or whatever this thing you want to call it is. Made myself a double espresso this morning, so my eyes are wide open. Guys, watch Wager Talk today after this show, because the Prez has a video he's going to show, and I'm not even going to try and explain to you this video. Andrew has seen it. I have seen it. You guys make up your own minds on what this video is, but tune in at the top of the hour for that show. But Andrew, let's just go right back to you on this Devils and Flyers game, and you lead off. Give us your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a strong man to want to show that video on a channel as big as WagerTalk TV, Carm. But yeah, you guys, I wouldn't blame you for wanting to check out that video the Prez is going to show. It's going to be interesting. But look, I'm going to take a look here at the Philadelphia Flyers on the money line against the New Jersey Devils, and that's the matchup we have next up here. Current price right now, we're seeing plus 125 on the road, or excuse me, at home against this very Devils team. Total is 5.5 here. Taking a look at this Devils team, they just come off that win in overtime on Saturday night against my Montreal Canadiens. It was a very fast-paced game, a lot of chances created for both teams, and of course, ending in the OT there. The last time these teams met was only early in January, and we saw Philadelphia get the job done. And as you guys know, typically, I am that rapid revenge type of guy. I'm a guy that looks towards, okay, this team beat that team, and they're playing just a week or two later. I'm convinced, they can get their revenge a little bit here. There's one thing I'm concerned about right now with the Devils, and it's the fact that they have a goaltending issue right now. Jake Allen, who I've watched a ton of games from when he was in Montreal, he is now going to act as the starter, most likely, for the New Jersey Devils, with Jacob Markstrom being injured. And I know that Jake Allen is a great goaltender, and I know that he's someone that can fill in roles, because he was the guy that had to fill in as the number one role when Carey Price went out for the Montreal Canadiens. So we all know how big that injury was. But I think the workload is getting bigger. I think that the starts are going to add up. I think that's going to make things difficult for this Devils team. Also, looking at their game against the Bruins, where they won 5-1, that doesn't really dictate the kind of numbers that I saw when I went back and looked, and the eye test when I watched that game. The Bruins had a ton of chances in that game. Senators beat the Devils 2-1. Same thing in that one. They only went 2-1, but they had a ton of chances in that game. I'm not really liking what I'm seeing from the Devils right now and their defensive numbers. I just don't trust this team defensively overall, and we're going to have a very, very hungry Philadelphia Flyers team coming in. They lose 3-1 to the Islanders, 6-1 to the Rangers, and then, of course, these couple low-scoring victories before that, and, of course, dropping some games against some bigger teams. This, to me, is home value. This, to me, is getting a team that is going to be as desperate and motivated as you possibly can here on a Monday night against the Jersey team that, yeah, sure, it's revenge from a few weeks ago, but this game against a non-playoff team is a much different style game and motivation level for them, I think, than it's going to be for the Philadelphia Flyers to get back on track. So, Brian, I like this price. It's intriguing for me, plus 125 here. I know a lot of times I do like to look towards that revenge factor, but I'm not too interested in it in this one. What about yourself?
A little bit torn on this one. We may have two teams that are starting to go in different directions. That it would be a concern if you like Philadelphia here. The Devils have gone to overtime 5 of their last 8 games, including a 4-3 win in Montreal on Saturday, which cost me a sweep of that game. But despite winning back-to-back games, they're just on a 4-9 run. They have not played well. New Jersey had gone 11 straight games, scoring 3 goals or less. This was a team that had a really good offense earlier in the season. But last 2 games against Boston and Montreal, they did manage 9 goals in those 2 games. So maybe they're starting to find the net a little bit more. It's also the first game back-to-back for the Flyers, the team the Devils lost to 10 days ago, as you mentioned, 3-1. New Jersey has dropped 7-9 on the road as of late. This is not the same Jersey team we saw earlier. but I think they're starting to come out of it a little bit. I still have concerns about their offense. The offense has not been good for Jersey in a while after the way they started the season. Philadelphia scored just 4 goals in the last 3 games, 3 total in regulation. So they too are having a harder time putting the puck in the goal. And over the last 30 days, you take a look at the expected goals in 5-on-5 play, they got a 60.02 goal share. So they've really, the ice has been tilted in that direction for the last month. And they're winning more than they were, but not for somebody that you would expect with a 60.02 goal share. So it looks like they're starting to regress a little bit towards the season-to-date numbers. I would expect them to go back to a little bit more towards what they played earlier. I lean with the under here. Neither team is really having a lot of success offensively, and the importance of this game for New Jersey to get back on the road and start winning, and then Philadelphia just to continue to try to get back to where they were before. They've played very well, as we talked about on the season offensively, and the defense and the goaltending has been bad, but it's been a little bit better as of late. So I'm leaning towards the under in these two.
Carm, what do you think here? I mean, obviously Philadelphia is struggling right now, but New Jersey, what's your thoughts on the whole Markstrom thing? Because I am kind of concerned about that being a factor for them. Maybe I'm reaching here. Maybe I'm reaching with this, but I think that it's going to be a lot of starts for him with Markstrom being injured. It sounds like it's a pretty serious injury he's dealing with.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give the Devils credit. The Devils, you see so many teams when a player gets injured and they tell you it's day to day. They don't really give you an update on what it is. With Markstrom, it was completely different. They had a conference and they said, this is his injury that he sustained. He's going to be out for up to 6 weeks. Now, up to 6 weeks sounds bad, but we've got a week left. Or 2 weeks left before I believe it's 2 weeks left before the Four Nations Cup, which is going to take a couple of weeks as well too, for that to be played. So he's going to miss some time, but he's not going to miss a lot of game time as far as or a lot of games as well. Now, we'll see what his progress is throughout it, but at least they did it the right way. They told you. So next week, we're not expecting Markstrom to come back, or the week after that, we're not expecting it. It's going to be Jake Allen and whoever they bring up, or whether they pick someone up remains to be seen. You know, Allen's numbers against the Flyers are lifetime 2-4, 305 goals against average, 890 save percentage. But of course, a lot of that was while he was in goal, I think, for the Montreal Canadiens as opposed to the New Jersey Devils. I kind of like the rapid revenge spot here in this one, mainly because the Devils threw in an absolute clunker at home. They lost that game 3-1 a little over 10 days ago. They had 13 shots on goal in that game. Urson was in goal and that picked up the win. 13 shots on goal in a game at home in front of your fans. I think they pick up the win here because Urson didn't look good against the Rangers. They sat him against the next game out, but Rangers pretty much lit him up as well too. He'd been good before that, but they lit him up. We'll see. I think the Devils is the right spot here. I'll lay the $1.45. Any thoughts, or you want to just give us a couple winners in your props playlist?
Well, Carm, I'll say this, and you're right, because as much as you guys know, I can be sometimes a little bit favorable and biased towards my Canadians. You're right, Carm, because let's be real here. The defense that Jake Allen had for the Montreal Canadiens when he was there with them, little bit different than the defense he has now with the Devils. So some of those numbers that we saw with Jake Allen and head-to-head matchups and things like that, they're going to be a little bit worse sometimes because, like you said, the team that he was playing for. So I feel like that's something that's kind of interesting too. Like it's, and sometimes it works as well. I think the other way around, guys, for a bad team. Like I would love to see certain players. Like it's going to be very interesting. This might be a kind of an exaggeration, but we haven't really talked about it yet on the show. This is going to be interesting to see what Mikko Rantanen, how he plays without Nathan McKinnon, right? And how some of these guys play on different teams without, their star player they had before. Or like if you're Jack Eichel and then you played on Buffalo And then now it's like, okay, you were good on a bad team. Now let's go see how good you are on a good team. And of course, he was great because they went and did great things. But it is interesting to see because, like you said, if a guy has bad numbers, it's something for us to take into account, just simply based on the team that guy was playing on. So, you know what I mean? Like, Carm, like, this just really the struggles. Like, if a wide receiver in the NFL only had X amount of yards, but he was playing for the Carolina Panthers, probably going to boost those numbers up next year when he goes and signs for a good team, right?
Yeah, it is something that you see across all sports. Just because you are a superstar on one team and revered doesn't mean that you can take that player out, put him on a team with a losing record, and all of a sudden they turn it around. If you take Tom Brady and during those years with the Patriots, and you stuck him on one of the worst teams in the NFL, does he turn them into a playoff team and go on and win a Super Bowl? I think not. And this is no disrespect to Brady, but it is the team as a whole. You go back to NHL, you look at Allmark. Allmark had a really good time of it. He went from Buffalo, where he was okay, to Boston, where he was very good. So he's in Ottawa. And in Ottawa, he's playing extremely well. So sometimes you can pluck a bad player off or a good player off a bad team, Andrew, and he plays better because the team that he's now around have a better support system. They have a better system. And that's the thing with Eichel. Eichel was the star in Buffalo, but there was nothing else. The second and third lines weren't scoring. He goes to Vegas, and that team is stacked, and he wins a cup. So good for him. We see it all the time, but we'll see. I feel bad for. Well, actually, I don't feel bad for Allen. The guy's got millions and millions of dollars, Andrew, and he's got a chance to make the playoffs this season with the Devils. So how can we feel bad for him? With that said, enough chatter about Jake Allen. Let's get to your props playlist, Andrew. Give us some winners.
All right, let's do it. I've got 2 player props here for today. Both of these are based on opponent rankings and how their opponents have done against said positions, said teams, and in certain situations. Just want to reiterate what I mentioned already on PuckTime today about that $77 for 1 week. It's a really, really good deal. We're on a 40-unit NHL run, number 1 last 7 days as well. It's been a really, really, really good run here in the NHL. Number 1 this year on 5% plays and 8-0 this year in the NFL playoffs. So you better believe I'll be locked and loaded for the Super Bowl. Have not lost a play this playoffs in the NFL. So easy to say it. Lots of pressure for me going into the big game, guys. So looking forward to that. If you guys want to get any of my plays until that, NBA, NHL, UFC, whatever it might be, $77 is all the price is at my profile page, wt.buzz/AM. All right, my player props here. We're going to go with Jordan Kyrou from the St. Louis Blues to get at least 1 point against the Vancouver Canucks. Look, I know this is a little bit chalky here, guys. I've been giving out some pretty good prices lately, but Vancouver ranks 30th in the league as far as points given up to the center position. Jordan Kyrou's ice time has been skyrocketing lately, playing a ton of time for the St. Louis Blues team. And right now, what I've noticed about the Blues is they lack depth. When their top 4 or 5 guys aren't scoring, nobody is scoring for this team. So if they get some goals tonight, I believe it will be from one of their centers, and that should be Jordan Kyrou to get the job done. All right, we're going to go to an under now. We're going to go to Seattle with Matt Beniers under 1.5 shots on goal. We're going to take him minus 115 against Edmonton. And Edmonton does really well against left wingers, but they also do really well against depth pieces. And right now, Seattle is just not getting a ton of shots on goal. There's a reason why his number is only 1.5. And I know people talk a lot about Edmonton's offense. Obviously, a big day today, getting McDavid back and all that good stuff. But as of right now, Seattle's shot counts per game have not been high whatsoever. And Matt Beniers certainly hasn't really been a part of that. He does not have a point in 8 of his last 9 games. Hard to get a point if you're barely even interested in shooting the puck yourself. So we'll go under 1.5 shots on goal for Matt Beniers from the Seattle Kraken. And that will be the game that we jump into the next here on PuckTime here with Seattle and Edmonton. Carm, I'll throw it to you on this one before Brian gives us. I heard he's got the action. I think he has tomorrow's newspaper, so stay tuned, guys. He really likes this game, I've heard. But what do you have in this one here? McDavid coming back, Carm.
Yeah, McDavid is coming back, Andrew. But it is weird for. We normally expect, okay, McDavid's coming back. These guys are going to be absolutely on fire at home. They're going to want to run up the score. I don't believe any of that. He's coming back, and the Oilers is just going to pick up pretty much where they left off, Andrew. And you know where they left off? With a very good run of unders at home. Their last 10 games, they are 8-2 to the under. Now, you wouldn't normally think that. You think the Oilers at home, they're going to score goals. We're seeing more games gravitate towards the under. That's why we're seeing 5.5s in every game on the board today, with the exception of this game, which is at 6, is at 5.5. In Oiler games, you look at last year, for the Edmonton Oilers at home, and the totals were predominantly 6.5s. So I think books are adjusting. We're going to see in the second half of the season a lot of 5.5s. I mentioned that to Buster. Oiler games, you're not going to see a lot of 5.5s. You're going to see 6s, but 8-2 to the under their last 10 games at home. Get a lead, suffocate Seattle, who you mentioned aren't getting a lot of shots on goal as it is, and it's likely one of those 4-1 type Oiler wins, which is good enough to keep it under the total. So I'm going to take the under 6 here because it's at even money. The over is shaded 20 cents, and I'll throw it to Brian for his thoughts.
My thoughts are: why are we talking about a game that a team is a $3 favorite? Are these the only games that are on the board today? There's something going on. You must have something with somebody in Seattle where you get paid off if you talk about the Kraken once in a while or something. Yeah, there's not a whole lot more you could say about this game. Seattle's after a 3-1 homestand. The Kraken head to Edmonton for the single road game before 5 more in Seattle. So they've had a good schedule when coming into this game. They do host Anaheim tomorrow, and that's always a concern if they fall behind in this game a little bit and play some of the more minutes for the lesser guys on this team. But over the last 30 days, I found this very interesting. The Kraken own a 5-on-5 expected goal share of only 40.7. That's third worst in the league. Yet they've got a 7-7 record going. So they've been very fortunate. They're not scoring. They're not playing very well. And the records are not going to show that. And obviously, when they're playing these games at home, they should be winning. But they always fared pretty well without their suspended superstar, winning 2 of 3 and outscoring the opposition 11-7. This is their 4th game of a 6-game homestand. And you had mentioned getting McDavid back. Just because he's back on the ice, and you touched on this, Carmine, does not mean they're just going to pick up where they left off before. That is always a concern. We've talked about this in the past in other sports, where your star player comes back and then everybody relaxes a little bit on that team and they just don't play very well in their first game back. That is a concern when you're laying $3 in this game. Despite them being divisional rivals, this is only the second meeting between the two this season. Seattle's been just very fortunate this month and then plays again tomorrow. So I don't want them, but I can't lay this price with the host because, as I mentioned, first game back for your star player, you don't know what Edmonton's going to come out with here. So unfortunately, I have nothing to add on this game on today's card.
Brian,
cracked me up.
When we talk about minus 300s, you got to toss them on. Like the only other option, Andrew, what were the other options we had on tonight's card?
There's 2 good options on there.
I think there's only 5. We could have talked about St. Louis and Vancouver, but that's kind of boring. We could have talked about San Jose and Pittsburgh, but that one's kind of a boring game as well too. So you got to have the Oilers and the return of thing. But to the point of the last 5 meetings, I believe these 2 competitive meetings, not preseason meetings, 4 of the 5, I think, have gone under the total in this one, Andrew. So I'm going to go to you for the final thoughts on this. But I'm going to throw you a little curveball. It has nothing to do with this. So I'm watching the Bills game yesterday at this place in Bolton, which is about a half hour north of where I am. And I go to the bathroom. You guys don't want to hear this, but there's a guy asleep on the urinal. On the urinal! It's not even halftime of the Eagles game, the first game. And this guy, his head is leaning forward and he hasn't moved. And I wasn't sure if he was dead. Some guy walks in and goes, "That guy's still there?" I'm like, "That guy's still there is not a good thing." It's like, come on, dude, you got 45. The clock doesn't reset. You got 45 seconds on that piss clock, and move the hell out of here. But with that said, Andrew, I threw you a little curveball because now that's in your head while you're trying to break down this Seattle Edmonton game.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is great. Honestly, I'm happy you added in that part of the guy saying that guy's still there. That's kind of nuts. That is crazy. Look, guys. Well, look, when the first game after McDavid went out, I talked up Leon Draisaitl, right? I said the shots on goal, points, whatever it might be. The second option usually picks things up when the first option goes down. Well, I'm going to be Mr. Contrarian here in this one and take McDavid under 1.5 points plus 100. I'm also going to take a look at under 2.5 shots on goal for McDavid. Guys, he is coming back, but it's not like he's coming back against their absolute arch rivals. I mean, to Brian's point, they're playing the Seattle Kraken, who I keep on calling the most mid-level team. You know how Wash Redskin in the group chat or the chat is always defending the Capitals? I'm going to have a Seattle fan defending Seattle to me for how much smack I talk about their team these days, because they're the most mid-level team right now. Like Brian said, I mean, they don't even deserve to be on TV, let alone talked about here on PuckTime with how they play. I think under 1.5 points for McDavid, getting even money here. Yeah, he's not going to be happy about the suspension. He'll be motivated to be back. He'll be. You know what he wants, guys? He wants to win. He wants his team to come out and get the win tonight. I'm sure he'll be motivated. I'm sure there'll be some big games he'll play well in again. But how often are you going to get plus 100 odds for a guy to get less than 2 points? I know it's McDavid, but there's still a handful of guys on this roster that can score, that can get assists, that can get points. And I'm going to kind of pull the contrarian approach here in this one. Bet against the superstar coming back, because all over social media today, we're going to see people with the same exact little 3-line write-up. McDavid's back. He'll be right. He'll be ready. He'll be motivated because he's the guy. Yeah, okay. We all know that, and so do the books know that. I'm going to try and play devil's advocate here and take the under 1.5 points at a nice plus 100 price here, Carm. So we'll see how this goes. I'm not sure if I want to watch the game betting against McDavid, because it's a lot more fun to watch the game when you're cheering on the Oilers and McDavid. But I'm not so sure that he's going to be going crazy like people really think he's going to be, just because he's back from the suspension. So that's it for me as far as plays on the show today. I will have some more plays given out on WagerTalk today, and some great specials as well. So I hope you guys tune in.
Andrew, before we get to the best bets, I just want to mention something else. Let me clear my throat for this one. It is not a story. Actually, it could be a story, but one of my clients sends me a message on the weekend on Sunday, because I loaded some NHL plays, and one of them was like a free play. And sometimes you come across something, because I sent it to you in our text message chat. You come across a stat that you're like, how did I miss this one before? And it was the one with the Chicago Blackhawks. They are going into yesterday's game at home in the first period. The over has hit in 20 of 25 games for the Chicago Blackhawks, and they're on a 10-0 run to the first period over. Minnesota gets both goals yesterday in the first period. It is now 11 straight overs in the first period for Chicago at home, and 21-5. Sometimes you miss these stats because you're looking through so many other props and scenarios that you miss those ones. Andrew, you must have missed some along the lines, but were you surprised by that stat that I sent you yesterday? 21-5. If I had just been betting that all season long, I think I would be number one at WagerTalk. Sadly, I'm not, because you're on a great run yourself. But I know a prop. Sometimes you come across one, you're like, how did I miss this one?
Yeah, that's the most frustrating thing. Like, oh, this guy has found the end zone in 7 of his last 8 games. It's like, well, why did nobody tell me? I wish someone told, like Andy Lang will go on Wager Talk today, and it's like, this player has gone over 1.5 shots on goal in 17 of his last 19 games. I'm just like, well, thanks for someone giving me the heads up on that one. I didn't know about that. So, yeah, you're right, Carmen. Then the worst part is you find out too late, and then you get that FOMO, and you're wondering, should I jump in or did I miss the streaks? And I'll throw it to you, Bryan, for your best bets. But you're someone that I've known since we've started talking hockey together that you will hop on teams. Like, I'll hear you on a certain team multiple times in a span of a few weeks. Do you ever see a team on a streak and you've missed it and you don't want to jump in because you might be too late? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you see a team, they've won 3 of their last 4 games. You don't want to jump in when they start losing. That's the worst part. Everyone's fear.
Yeah, it's a situation where, I jump on teams, but I jump on teams based on the line. And if I'm seeing value with that line, I will play them. The problem is when you get on the end of a streak like that, rarely you're getting any value at all by betting on that team because everybody already knows about them ahead of time. What I really like is like when you guys talk about, Carmine's done this a lot, where he looks at the schedule and he says, hey, this is a really good time coming up to be able to make some money. Knowing it ahead of time is much more profitable than knowing about it afterwards. But it's something you got to keep into account. And we in the course of a season, you, especially in the NHL, you get so many teams that I talked about Jersey earlier. You get so many teams at one point that are playing great, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, they're terrible. And even the Knights here in Vegas, we've been able to make good money by seeing the streaks on them. So, yeah, it's something you always want to take into account. And by the way, that story that you were just telling us, Carmine, any city that I have ever lived in my life, if I walked into the bathroom and that guy was in that situation, he would have been pantsed, and somebody would have taken pictures of him. Somebody would have wrote Carmine, taken down his pants and wrote a magic marker on his ass. Carmine was here, something to that effect. But he was lucky he's going to a small town up in Canada. His Canadians are so nice.
Yeah.
I want to get back to my best bet here.
I would not want to be on anyone's butt cheeks, any guy's butt cheeks, as Carmine was here. I just want to tell you that one. But with that said, Bryan, come on, man. Let us know what you have at Wager Talk and give us the winner.
Yeah, I got my best bet coming up. I do want to let people know I've got a 4% play going in hockey today. It's one of the ones that is more of a competitive line, not the Edmonton game minus 300. We're on a 14-4 run on 3% and higher in the NHL. Really nice run overall, 7-2 overall on NHL games in that regard. But a big 4% play in the NHL so far today. We'll probably put up some basketball as the day goes on. Let's take a look back at that LA and Detroit game that I started off with. I'm going to play the under in that game. Look for yourself on how you want to play that. Maybe the Los Angeles game, team total under, somewhat like Detroit on the side there. But I think it's going to be one of those games that definitely goes under it. I wrote this up, and I used this as my free play on the site last night, and there were still some 6s out there. Now everything's 5.5. That tells me that the wise guys who bet it early are seeing the same thing as I am, and usually that's a good sign. I would much rather play an under 6 than the 5.5, but if everybody else agrees, I think I got a nice bet winner there. So that's what we're using on the show today, the under 5.5 between Los Angeles and Detroit.
Right. I like it, Bri. Best of luck to you. And thank you for coming on Monday. I know it was short notice for you. I sent you the message late yesterday, but I wanted to make sure my spot was covered in case I didn't make it back in time. Guys, a couple plays up in the NHL for me tonight. No soccer plays for me, but I do have a Wednesday 5% Champions League play. Last week's Champions League mismatch play was an easy 5-0 winner. I think I found another game that's going to have a slanted scoreline. Let's hope we can cash that one. Take advantage of that 7 days for $77 deal and get all plays through to next Sunday. From me, there's plenty of action that's going to be going on. My talking about streaks again, and I talked about that Chicago one. I'm going to to the West Coast, the Pittsburgh San Jose game. And listen, I'm not a big fan of this Pittsburgh team right now, but I'm going to take them in the first period in this one, laying at $1.45 in the first period, mainly because the Sharks are the worst team in the NHL record-wise in the opening 20 minutes at home. 4 wins, 14 losses, 7 pushes with the first period line. The only team that has 14 losses in the first period in the opening 20 minutes is also the Colorado Avalanche. And this isn't the Colorado Avalanche tonight. It's the San Jose Sharks. So give me Pittsburgh first period minus 145 on the money line in 20 minutes, and I'm out, Andrew.
I love it, Carm. I'm telling you, man, you must be having some crazy plans these days at nights with all these first period plays you're doing, but they're cashing for you. You've got the data to back it up. I'll be following along with you on that one. And guys, don't miss Carm's 5% play. I'll be following along with that. And I hope Bryan will tell me what his 4% play is after the show tonight in the NHL. Guys, so far, just one play for me, one official play in the NHL, but I still have that promo code, and it's good until tomorrow. So if you guys want to use it, you better use it ASAP. That promo code is CUP150, CUP150 to take $150 off my full NHL season plus the playoffs. Get every single NHL future side total prop that I release. Take $150 off that package. CUP150 is the deal. And hopefully you guys have joined me. I've already had a ton of you guys join me on week deals. A few of you guys have joined me on this special. If you want the full season, this is the best price you're going to get. My best bet's going to be the Philly Flyers here at plus 125. I like this number here. I like the spot. And I feel like just the motivational level that we're going to see for them, it's going to be just a little bit different. I just think that right now, this is a team that I know they've been playing poorly. I know that they haven't really had their scoring, but I do worry about the defensive end goaltending stats here for the Devils. And I think this Philadelphia team will come out on fire at home in front of their home crowd tonight after some really, really tough losses lately. So that will do it for Puck Time on Monday, the 27th. A lot more bigger games tomorrow to break down. We'll try and avoid those minus 300s as a show topic here. But thank you, as always, for all of you guys for being here. Bryan, Carmine, myself, we really appreciate it. Hit the like button on the way out. But for now, guys, enjoy the games. Good luck. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Puck Time.